Michaels, the Metropolis of New Jersey Philoptochos Chapter President, and Ms. Jennifer Constantine, Direct Archdiocesan District President, Philoptochos. Today, we have the very special treat and honor to have an exceptional son of the Greek Orthodox community to serve as our Master of Ceremonies. Our Master of Ceremonies currently serves as Chief Congressional Correspondent for the Fox News Channel. He joined Fox News in 1997 as a Los Angeles-based correspondent. During the past year, he reported on the deadly shooting at the Navy Yard in Washington, D.C., the IRS scandal, the congressional hearing on the Benghazi Libya attacks, and President Barack Obama's second-term State of the Union address from Capitol Hill. During his tenure at Fox News, he provided live coverage of several national and international stories.
Demetrius, Your Graces, Reverend Fathers, distinguished guests, members of the Board of Trustees, alumni of this fine institution, students, and friends of St. Basil's, good afternoon. And what a spectacular afternoon it is. Just look at this setting around us. I'd love to bring some atheists up here. Tell me God didn't create all this? Come on. I will be brief because we have a number of distinguished guests who are here to speak to you. I'm particularly looking forward to hearing from some of the alums about the difference St. Basil's made in their lives. And as I'm walking around the grounds and meeting the people who give their love and compassion here on a daily basis to so many young people, I'm struck by this place of compassion and love. And it really strikes me as the personification of when you walk into our holy churches and you look at the back behind the altar and you see the Panagia with her arms outstretched. To me, that says St. Basil's. So I think of the many graduates, some famous like Senator Olympia Snowe, and many others who are successful, productive, loving people who St. Basil's made a tremendous difference in their lives. And so I look forward to hearing a lot of those stories. I look forward to meeting a lot of you who I haven't met so far. I've enjoyed seeing a lot of friends of many years, including Father Costa, and enjoyed making some new friends so far. So we're going to have a fantastic time, a great day, and it is a great honor and privilege for my family and I to be here. So thank you. So in addition to the clergy working so hard to make St. Basil's go and to make an impact on the lives of these young people, you also need dedicated faculty members, staff members, and you need a board of trustees to help as well. And so it is now a great honor and privilege to welcome to the podium the president of the board of trustees, is Evelyn Ciatis.
Your Eminence, Archbishop Demetrius. Your Grace, Bishop Sebastianos. Your Grace, Bishop Philotheos. The Honorable Consul General of Greece, Georgios Iliopoulos. Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Michael Manuel. President of the National Philoptos Society, Mrs. Aphrodite Skiadas. Past President and Chairman of this afternoon's festivities, Dr. Steve Gunardis. My esteemed colleagues on this Board of St. Basil's, our guests of honor, alumnus, Mr. Angelo Dadis, Mrs. Zoe Moeller, Mr. Spiridon Mitches, Mr. Carlos Perez, friends, staff, volunteers, and our beloved children of St. Basil's Academy, welcome. We gather on this glorious day to celebrate a milestone, the 70th anniversary of a very unique, important, life-transforming ministry of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America. In 1944, the late Archbishop Athinagoras of blessed memory had the foresight to establish this academy. Without his vision, the support of Philoptochos, Ahepa, Daughters of Penelope, Pan Gregorian, Pan Cyprian, and other organizations and donors, where would the thousands of children under the Academy's care have been sheltered, loved, nurtured, and educated for the last 70 years? With us today are alumni from near and far. I ask all of you to please rise at this moment. On behalf of the St. Basil's Board of Trustees, I welcome you all home. St. Basil's has been and continues to be a life-transforming ministry, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, providing a quality of life second to none. We are not a charity. We are an organized, structured, licensed home filled with the blessings and love where children can thrive. We offer you the opportunity to join with us by investing in the future and education of our exceptional children. Recommending or sending a child in need to St. Basil's is every Orthodox Christian's responsibility. If you could help a child, wouldn't you? For the last 7 years, I have had the honor to serve as president of this beloved academy. Thank you, Your Eminence, for this privilege. You have given me the greatest treasure in my life, to be a part of the lives of our talented, precious, and brilliant children. I have witnessed firsthand their growth, achievements, and transformation. Thank you, Your Eminence. Thank you to Dr. Steve Gennardis, our chairman this afternoon, Mr. Mike Emanuel, our Master of Ceremonies coming from Virginia with his lovely wife, Evangelia, and my two little friends, Savas and Tess. You are a very exceptional person, Mike, and thank you. The dedicated Board of Trustees who constantly give of themselves, who are most supportive and diligently perpetuate the mission of our beloved academy. I thank all the alumni for coming home and participating in our family reunion today. Thank you very much. Congratulations to our dearest Carlos, our graduate this afternoon. I'm very, very proud of him. I wish him the best of luck as he continues his education on to Dutchess Community College. Thank you to a very special man who epitomizes all the good in this world. His strength, patience, wisdom, and love continuously serves as an inspiration. I am referring to our own Father Kostas. Father, you are a rock. You are a pillar of compassion and goodness. All you have to do is smile, and not even I can say no to you. In closing, I ask the good Lord to bless all who enter through the gates of St. Basil's Academy. This land is special. We can all feel it. It is the original field of dreams, for these fields turn the dreams of our children into realities. It is here that miracles do happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. It is now a pleasure to welcome to the podium the Honorable Yorgos Eliopoulos, Consul General of Greece.
Σεβασμιότατε, θεοφιλέστατοι, αξιόπτοι members of the board, dear friends, 70 years of any institution is worth celebrating. When it comes to celebrate an institution of love and offering and giving, then the joy is doubled. Οργανισμοί που στηρίζονται στην εθελοντική προσφορά, συνεισφορά και εργασία των μελών μιας κοινότητας εξυπηρετούν 3 φορές περισσότερα την κοινότητα που απευθύνονται. Προσφέρουν τις υπηρεσίες τους όπου είναι απαραίτητες, καλύπτοντας συνήθως κενά που υπάρχουν. Συμβάλλουν στη δημιουργία ενός δικτύου προστασίας, που τα μέλη της κοινότητας καταλαβαίνουν, αισθάνονται ότι είναι εκεί ακόμα και όταν δεν τα χρειάζονται. Και τέλος, ενισχύουν τους δεσμούς των μελών της κοινότητας, είτε διότι τους οθεί στη συνεργασία, είτε διότι τους οθεί στην προσφορά. Φίλοι και φίλοι, I've been here for 2.5 years, and I can testify as a newcomer, if I may, that St. Basil's Academy and St. Michael's Home are the 2 institutions that are closer to the heart of the homogenia of the region. And this is not a mistake. People do understand when something good is happening. People do understand when at the end of the day, some people offer rather than use. So I can only congratulate for the 70 years. Thank you for inviting me to be here with you. And I can hope, let's all hope, for many more years to come of offerings and love. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Consul General. It is now a privilege to welcome to the podium somebody who works tirelessly for our Philoptochos, locally, regionally, across the country, around the world. I go to these great events, and she's there with a big smile on her face, ready to help. And so it is a great privilege to welcome to the podium Mrs. Aphrodite Skiadis.
Your Eminence Archbishop Demetrius, Your Grace Bishop Philotheos, Your Grace Bishop Sebastianos, Reverend Father Kostas Sideras, Reverend Clergy, Honorable Consul General of Greece, Mr. Yorgos Iliopoulos, Esteemed President Evelyn Tsiadis and Board of Trustees, Master of Ceremonies, Fox News Chief Congressional Correspondent, Mr. Mike Emanuel, Chair of the 70th celebration, Dr. Gunardis, Graduate Carlos Perez, students, alumni, and family of St. Basil Academy, Philoptochos Presidents Jennifer Constantine and Ann Michaels, dear brothers and sisters in Christ. 70 long years ago, this month, the United States Armed Services were landing on the shores of Normandy, France, in the Second World War. The first African-American Major League Baseball player, the great Jackie Robinson, was being arrested in Texas and court-martialed for not sitting in the back of the bus, while simultaneously serving his country as an Army lieutenant. Computers, cell phones, and even rock and roll were not yet invented. But a short 70 years ago, then Archbishop Athenagoras of blessed memory, with grand vision embodying the compassion of Christ, established St. Basil Academy, with the Philoptochos ladies assisting in the process. Every year for 70 consecutive years, the volunteer women of Philoptochos throughout the country devote themselves in benefit and support of the precious children and their families of the Academy to continue the sacred mission, offering shelter, education, and nurturing, all with maternal love and while maintaining the values of our family, the ethos of our culture and the profound respect of our Greek Orthodox Church. Challenges will forever exist, and the world in which all children enter today can be cold and dark. 70 years ago, the world suffered the plight of poverty, discrimination, disease, war, and natural disaster. The Academy is named for the great father of our church, St. Basil, who lived over 1,600 years ago. St. Basil endured extremely difficult and grim times, yet he sought to overcome enormous struggles. St. Basil believed in the Lord and followed his teachings. Offering his wealth, he conceived of and established the Basiliad, the first community homeless shelter, hospice, and hospital. Truly, he served his fellow brothers and sisters. Quote, "Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by what I do." End quote, James 2:18. St. Basil Academy, through which embracing doors have passed and graduated authentic and outstanding men and women, has hosted countless guests, statesmen, and luminaries. It is a place of bucolic beauty, situated on the shores of the historically significant Hudson River. Most importantly, it is a haven where the personality and nature of each individual is respected and the fine character enriched. Each person's God-given qualities are valued, honored, and developed, so each in turn may offer them as gifts to others, exemplified by the sterling alumni present today in service to others. And I applaud the alumni today. When one arrives to this welcoming sanctuary and walks its tranquil path, it becomes a true homecoming. Bonds of friendship strengthen, laughter abounds, and gatherings of joy come with baseball, swimming, or pizza. As in all families, there may be a sprinkling of tears. Memories take shape, hope springs eternal, and the legacy of the Academy continues. Our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is present here and visible on the faces of our beautiful children. 70 years represent a milestone in Academy history, but our Orthodox faith in the resurrected Lord and Savior exceeds 2,000 years. We are delighted to participate in the 70th anniversary, symbolic of this Orthodox institution's founding. In commemoration of this momentous event and in thanksgiving, the National Philoptochos Society stewards throughout America join hands with the friends and the donors on this milestone date, saluting the students, the alumni, the Board of Trustees, Director Father Costa Citaras, the caring Academy staff, the many, many volunteers, and all present for your love and your prayers. Congratulations, Carlos Perez, today's graduate, who will attend in the fall, Duchess Community College. On behalf of the Greek Orthodox Ladies Philoptochos Society, thank you, Your Eminence, for leading by example, for kind and steady guidance, continuing the noble legacy of St. Basil Academy, for being the consummate intellectual, forever pondering, and for being the quintessential and enlightening representative to the world of the American Orthodox faithful. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Now it's my pleasure to welcome to the podium the Honorable Ambassador Vasilios Philippou, Consul General of the Republic of Cyprus.
Σεβασμιότατε Αρχιεπίσκοπε Μερικής κύριε Δημήτριε, σεβαστό Ιερατείο, κύριε Διευθυντά της Ακαδημίας του Αγίου Βασιλείου, κύριε Γεννικέ Πρόξενε, αγαπητοί φίλοι. Με ιδιαίτερη χαρά χαιρετίζω τη σημερινή εκδήλωση αποφοίτησης των μαθητών της Ακαδημίας του Αγίου Βασιλείου, η οποία συμπληρώνει φέτος 70 χρόνια από την ημέρα της ιδρύσεώς της. Η Ακαδημία χαρακτηρίζεται χωρίς αμφιβολία φυτόριο της ελληνοορθόδοξης παιδείας, αφού ξέρει να κρατά τον πυρσό της γνώσης άσβεστο χρόνια τώρα και να καθοδηγεί τους μαθητές της, ετοιμάζοντας τους πάντα για να αντιμετωπίσουν με σύνεση τις προκλήσεις της δικής τους κοινωνίας. Θερμά συγχαρητήρια αξίζουν στον πατέρα Σιτερά για την πολυσήμαντη και πολυσχηρή δραστηριότητά του στην Ακαδημία. Η Ακαδημία του Αγίου Βασιλείου αποτελεί ένα ακόμα δείγμα της ακίμητης έγνοιας της Ιεράς Αρχιεπισκοπής Αμερικής να διαφυλάξει τις αρχές και τα νάματα της Ορθοδοξίας και του Ελληνισμού. Καλούμαστε σήμερα να διαφυλάξουμε τις ελληνικές μας ρίζες, γιατί ο Ελληνισμός είναι η μοναδική σχεδία της ζωής μας, που μας κρατά όρθιους και ελεύθερους μέσα στον χρόνο. Ο Ελληνισμός ταυτίζεται με την Ορθοδοξία, τις παραδόσεις μας, την παιδεία μας, τη δημοκρατική μας συνείδηση, το ελεύθερο μας φρόνημα. Όπως έλεγε χαρακτηριστικά ο στρατηγός Μακριάνης, εμείς τη λέμε τη ζωή, την πιάνουμε από τα χέρια. Είμαστε από καλή γενιά, είμαστε Έλληνες, είμαστε Ορθόδοξοι Χριστιανοί. Και ο Θεός, αν και μας έκανε πολλά ολίγους, πάντα είναι στο πλευρό μας, όσο και αν μας πολεμούν. Τρώνε από μας και μένει και μαλλιά. Σας ευχαριστώ.
Now let's hear from some of the alumni. What a blessing it is to have a gentleman who was here the first year. Aphrodite beautifully painted a picture for us of what life in America was like in 1944. Well, now we get to hear what it was like here at St. Basil's back in 1944. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Angelo Dattis.
Eminence, all clergy, Father Costa especially. It's a pleasure to be here. 70 years ago, I was a 9-year-old kid, and I remember being left off with about 4 or 5 other students at the front gate. And being raised in Manhattan, New York City, I wasn't accustomed to seeing gates of that magnitude. And it was intimidating, to say the least. So we gently opened the gate and started walking in. The first thing we ran into was 2 walls, brick walls. They were about 2 foot high then. Today they're about 4 feet high and have been embellished. But back then they had a beauty that you couldn't imagine. The beauty was flowers, the most gorgeous color arrangement, an abundance of flowers that was so beautiful, you had to stop and look. And I believe it was Jacob Rupert's way of welcoming his guests to his estate. The number of students we had was somewhere in excess of 10, boys and girls. And I'd like to focus today on why I think the boys were excluded after the first year, and I'll give you some of the reasoning that I believe caused it, because I was part of it. The first great event that happened when I was here was when I was called by the priest. I can't recall his name, I'm not sure of his name. That was after I was here a couple of weeks, and he said, "I'd like you to welcome the Archbishop when he comes." And at that time it was Archbishop Athena Wara. Thank you. And I listened, and he says, what I'd like you to say is, "Kalosirtate says vasmiotate." Now, as a young kid from New York, I heard those words and I just choked. The priest, with his love, and I repeat love and kindness, worked with me and got me to say the words perfectly. The Archbishop came that day. One thing I never expected when I walked up and saw him and saw this giant of a man. He was about 6'4" or thereabouts, plus with his hat on, he probably stood 6'6", 6'7", who knows. I spoke the words perfectly, and any intimidation did not exist because he was such a loving man, and the love just came right out of him. Anyway, we walked around the north side of the mansion. Everybody stopped and we started talking. And I was standing next to the bishop, the Archbishop, and at that time he put his hand on my head and he left it there. All the kids were standing around and we all started giggling amongst ourselves. We were just that high and everybody else was that high. But that minute or two of his hand on my head is a moment that I'll never forget in my life. A wonderful experience. The reasons that I believe the boys were excluded are three. The first one occurred when the boys were playing. We were boys being boys. We decided to head down to the pond. It was the middle of the winter. Everything had frozen over. And we had a dog on at St. Basil's. The dog's name was Duke. And he was our mascot. For some reason or other, Duke loved all the boys and avoided the girls. I don't know why. Anyway, when we got down to the pond, we decided we wanted to walk across and see the railroad trestle, like a little bridge across the way, and see what it was like because we were fascinated by all these months. We stepped onto the ice. As soon as we stepped onto the ice, Duke started barking. So we continued on out. We got out about 20 feet, and we start hearing the cracks in the ice below us. There were probably 4 of us, perhaps 5. And then we said, okay, let's just kind of separate, spread the weight, so to speak. And we did that, and then we continued walking out, and then Duke was going really crazy, barking like crazy. We got out about 40 feet, and we kept calling Duke to come out, but he wouldn't come. He just sat there and barked. When we got there, we turned around and looked back at Duke, and he had actually come onto the ice. He was about 10 feet out. And we figured something was wrong. We better get out of here. So we turned around, and then we realized we had to walk over cracked ice. And we started back. We heard cracks, and we got back ashore. Only with God's help did we get back ashore. We walked up the hill and came up somewhere in this area. We thought everything was over with. The priest was waiting there. Since I was the youngest, I got away from getting my ear pulled. There's several faculty members here, and they grabbed the students by the ear, and they dragged us into the chapel. The chapel was in the western room. And they made us kneel in front of the altar. It's a makeshift altar with some icons. And I believe that we had to kneel through the whole liturgy. It was painful, but it was a lesson. But that was the first reason why there was consideration about the boys not coming back. The second reason is we were having a festival here. I believe it may have been Easter. And the festival is taking place right here on this lawn with about the same number of tables, no tent. Everybody's out in the open. Then the boys again decided to go wandering off, and we went down by what we call the farmhouse, where the chimney is, and the bird cages. And there's a couple other small cages with a very small mesh screen. And we started walking down. As we rounded the corner of one of the mesh screens, we looked down, and there was a copperhead snake. So we picked up rocks and whatever we could find, and we threw at the snake, and we killed it. Or so we thought. Anyway, we took the snake, pulled it out, and then we had to show it to everybody. So the oldest boy is walking back into the picnic ground holding his copperhead snake. It was fun to watch the women run over here and the men run over there. It was a great experience. Anyway, we, after a while, we just took it, we slung it up on a tree. And I walked over there this morning and I looked at that tree, and I think the same branch is still there. It's broken, it's honestly broken. It looks like it's rotted away, but it's still there. And that was another experience that left a mark. We had other things happen that left a footprint, so to speak. So when the time came to start the second year, the people at St. Basil's got considering how the students behaved and whatnot. And I think the ultimate consideration was that boys were just a little too rambunctious, and that the school needed time to set themselves up to handle boys, and I think it took a few years before they got back here. But anyway, the second year was one that I didn't attend. I remember I was in New York City for the summer when I heard that I couldn't come back, and I must say it honestly broke my heart. I was so hurt. It wasn't a matter, kids get over things quickly. I did not get over that. Even to this day, I remember it. The hurt that I had because I couldn't come back. Very painful. The St. Basil's, of course, introduced boys later on, but I believe that because of the incidents of the copperhead snake, walking on the ice, and some other incidents that happened here and there, boys being rough, for those reasons, a judgment was made that they're not going to bring them back. Now, the reason I'm saying all this is I was here about 8 years ago for a visit, and walking through the Rupert mansion, I spoke to one or two of the employees, and the employee said something that wasn't fact. I didn't argue the point, I just moved on. Then I spoke with Father Costa. We had a nice conversation, and he raised a lot of questions. Then I spoke with Evan. He raised some questions, and we talked, and then I concluded, I've got to write something. I looked at the St. Basil's website, and I saw perhaps 2 lines dealing with the founding year. So I sat down and I wrote a 3,100 word document. It's posted online. And it talks about St. Basil's Academy in a lot more detail than what I'm covering right now. But for all the students that are here, I'd like to say one important thing. The greatest value in my life has been the education of love here at St. Basil's Academy. It's something you'll never forget. I see people trying to gather for 10th anniversary, 20th anniversary of high school or college or whatever. But nowhere do I see the camaraderie, the compassion of the students from St. Basil's, such as an example is Facebook. You go on there, you see them all communicating back and forth. You don't see that in other schools. And I ask myself why. And it's because of the value of love that you've received here at St. Basil's Academy. And I think it structures a person's life in such a way, in a positive way, that opens them up for a brighter life, a more successful life, and I think a happier life. Thank you.
Okay, how about the 1950s? Who was here in the 1950s? That's good representation. Please come to the podium, Ms. Zoe Calandros-Moeller.
Father Costas, the staff, and definitely the children of St. Basil's. It's been a long, long time since my last visit. I arrived at St. Basil's January of 1950. My father was killed in an automobile accident, and my mother had to go to work. Having older siblings with their own children, this was the best option for me. It was pretty scary at first. 6 years old, I wasn't quite certain what to expect. I was homesick. I hated the food. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know anyone, and frankly, I thought I was in another country. Time has a way of turning events into positive ones, and I started to make friends, and like my roommates. In the early 50s, the dormitories were divided into apartments, and the children were kept by their age group, and the younger ones had supervisors / house mothers to help them. As we got older, roommate occupancy became less, and starting with 4 to a room, then 3, and then 2. My roommate Elaine is here. And our lights were out promptly at 9:30 for the older ones. The younger ones were a little earlier than that. Up at 7:30, everyone was responsible for making their own beds and getting themselves ready for breakfast. We all had responsibilities, starting with the little ones setting the tables and the older girls serving and clearing the tables. Off to school, which was right next to the dormitories. We called a hop, skip, and a jump. The school consisted of 4 classrooms, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs. And the cloakroom was downstairs, and the upstairs besides the classroom consisted of a bathroom and a small library. Also the attic, which I will tell you about later. Lunch always consisted of a hot meal, and as did dinner. After-school snacks were served promptly at 3 p.m., a little TV before dinner, study hall right after dinner, which took us back to the schoolhouse. We didn't have the option of snow closing on a snow day because most of the teachers and staff lived right here on campus. I can only remember one time that the school closed, and that was because our English teacher, Mrs. Helen Clark, could not make it in. There always was something going on at St. Basil's. Every other Saturday, we would go into Cold Spring, Peekskill, Highland Falls. I loved going to the dime store. Anyone remember what a dime store was? For a child or a young girl, it was like going into a Saks Fifth Avenue. Loads of good stuff. But once I bought a bottle of cologne called Evening in Paris for 17 cents. I stunk up the place and my roommates hated it. So did my mother when I passed it on to her. Candy, the dime store was loaded with it back in the day, quite affordable. You could buy a candy bar for a nickel or 6 for 25 cents, along with many other treasures that we shared with one another. To this day, I love to shop, but no more dime stores. I still get bargains. Sometimes when in town, we would go to a movie, but we always had to meet our bus at a certain time to get back to St. Basil's. Saturdays, when we didn't go to town, we would clear the tables in the dining room and dance for hours, or go to the farm and roast hot dogs and marshmallows. Simple things. Speaking of responsibilities, we all had the job of raking leaves in the fall and in the spring. But it seemed like many of us were allergic to poison ivy, which affected us mostly in the spring. I bet the stock for calamine lotion really went up in the spring, as most of us were covered in calamine lotion, but we always compared each other to see who had it the worst. It was like wearing a badge of honor. I'm not going to tell you, children and students, how fortunate you are with your computers, your iPads, your iPhones, etc. I think that's wonderful because I think my great nephews were born with a mouse in one hand and a remote in the other. But our pleasures were coloring books, crayons, puzzles. Any of you girls know Nancy Drew? And dodgeball, hopscotch, jump rope. You were really considered good if you could do double dutch or play jacks. Anytime we could play those games, we were loving life. Baseball was a favorite of ours, and we played in the field behind the main building. In fact, I showed my husband this morning third base. Sundays was always to church, and the women from the college were our choir. But we joined in too. When I first attended St. Basil's, I used to think, wow, this is one long service. Then I used to keep track of Father Timothy's liturgy and thought I was pretty smart when I knew we were getting close to the end. As I got older, I was very honored when Father Timothy asked me to be an altar girl. We all took turns, but I especially enjoyed the job, and I felt very special. I hated confession. I think we all did. Sometimes we would gather and discuss what we were going to say. One time, Father Timothy said, "Zoe, don't you have anything new to add?" It was always the same. He said, "Your confessions are always the same." I said, "Father, I'm young. I'm here at St. Basil's. We love one another. What kind of trouble can we get into?" He laughed and forgave me for all our sins. He was loved by all of us. I loved when Archbishop Michael came to visit school. I was in awe of his size. He was such a gentle man for having such a large voice and stature. It was an honor when he would ask me to visit with him. I sat on the ottoman and he sat in the big lounge chair and always asked how I was doing and if things were okay. He had the largest hands and I admired the ornate ring that he wore. I knew he was an important figure of the church, but to me he was the kindest man with a hearty laugh who loved children. He reminded me of Santa Claus minus the suit. Holidays were great and excited all of us. I guess the staff dreaded it because, as one would say, or as they would say, we were all wired. Halloween, we always came up with some kind of costume, and there always was some kind of party with lots of goodies. Christmas preparations started early as Kirio Badbada, the resident carpenter, started building the stage in the back of the dining room. And that was a pretty big stage. Christmas songs and plays would be decided and practice would begin. When we were little, some of us would be little angels. I liked that. Because I liked the costume. We wore little white robes, had halos, which we always didn't deserve, and pretty white wings. One year, we put on the play, A Mall and the Night Visitor. I was chosen to be a mall, but I was not a happy camper to have been chosen to be a boy. But you never complained. You kept it to yourself or your best friend. When I realized a mall was the main character, I put my heart and soul into it. My part consisted of 2 words, "Berbato, berbato." And I felt like a movie star. Christmas tree was decorated by all of us with hot chocolate, cookies to follow, and there always was a party with gifts before we went home for the holiday. A bit of the letdown when the holiday was over. Then came practice for the Greek Independence Parade. What a treat to march in the parade. Sometimes, to get out of the work, when we had practice, we took advantage of the practice and would mess up the march. So we got a little extra time away from our chores. Then came Lent, and the night before Lent, we would dress up, have a big party with so many sweets and goodies, dance till our feet hurt, and stuff ourselves with food. That night, we truly enjoyed ourselves as we were about to prepare ourselves for one of the holiest holiday. Lent brought church service on Wednesday, Friday, along with Sunday. We fasted and observed the 40 days before Easter, and we usually went home for the holidays for 10 days. Spring. We all loved the flowers starting to bloom, the days getting a little longer, outside more playing games, along with long hikes. We used to hike up to a place called Dick's Castle. and roam around the ruins. I wonder if it's still there, but I was advised last night it's now $1 million condos. Anyway, we look forward to coming back from our long hike and back to the hot dog roast on the farm. As we got older, we loved basking in the sun and trying to get a little tan. We also were at the age when rock and roll began with Bill Haley and the Comets. We would try to learn the new dances and laughed at our clumsiness, along with this person known as Elvis. I was not a fan of his, though we watched him on TV. I thought it was pretty silly when I saw the girls swoon over him. I couldn't figure that one out. Anyway, the new dances. Okay. I thought it was silly when he swooned on. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous here. I have to take a deep breath. May would bring preparations for graduation and awards day. There was a lot of practice going on as the college put on a play and some of us would have small parts. To sum things up, there were so many activities at St. Basil's: birthday parties, name day parties, Madison Square Garden to see the circus, amusement parks, visitors that came with gifts and treats, late night talks with my roommates, family visits, pranks pulled on each other, much laughter, few tears. I know my experience at St. Basil's taught me patience, perseverance, and love for my fellow man. It guided me into becoming a strong Christian woman who loves her family and friends dearly. It prepared me to be even more patient, more loving, and to keep a sense of humor when our second son, Jason, was born and later diagnosed with autistic tendencies. Oh, I forgot. I said I would tell you about the school attic, but the school attic was not haunted. One April Fool's Day, I know some of you remember this. One April Fool's Day, one of the older girls thought we would play a joke on the teachers. We all were in on it. So after lunch, we quickly gathered the little ones, and all of us hid up in the attic. We thought that would be so funny, but the joke was on us. The teachers were so angry because they couldn't find us, and we wouldn't come out of our hiding place. We lost our privilege to go to town that week. We had an extra 30 minutes of study hall, and we added outside chores. So lesson learned to all of you is one is always responsible for their actions. Congratulations to the graduate today and to all of you. Enjoy your home at St. Basil's. Love your brothers and sisters, but better yet, love yourselves because you make this world a brighter place by being in it. Thank you.
Now let's hear the perspective of a recent alum. Please welcome to the podium, Spiridon Mitras.
Your Eminence, Archbishop Demetrius, Your Graces, Honorable Consul General of Greece, esteemed guests and friends. It feels really great to be home today, Father. I'm going to do my best to be brief, concerning I just drank an entire bottle of water in 30 minutes, and I went to the bathroom. I'm starving. I get grumpy when I'm hungry, so I'm gonna make this brief. For those who don't know me, I'm Spiros Mitras. I graduated in 2011. I think it's best appropriate to explain my experience here before I congratulate everyone and thank everyone. I came here in 1999, 12 years old, and similar to Angela's experience, I was also mesmerized by my first day. I also came from, like Angela, I also came from Manhattan. And the first opportunity I had to be with myself, I walked outside this mansion, and there's about half a foot of snow. And all I did was I walked around and created this huge house, kind of to like imitate this mansion. And kind of like, I don't know, I essentially realized 16 years later what that moment meant for me, and you were about to realize what it meant for me. So I spent the next 12 years of my life here. I still spend a lot of time here. Come to weekends, come to church, come play with the girls, play video games with the guys, and just have a great time, because they're my brothers and sisters, and I love you guys a lot. So, these 12 years that I've been here, I subconsciously built the foundation of my dream. And what is my dream? My dream is that I always wanted a family. And to feel normal, like a normal kid, a normal brother, a normal son. What does that mean? It means waking up in the morning, seeing your family, taking a really long time to get ready for school, being yelled at on the ride to school for being late, playing school sports, being supported by your family, going on family vacations, and just being loved, you know. These, as well as many other things, are what I believe to be what constitutes a family. And, you know, throughout these 12 years, I essentially felt overshadowed by all the kids around me because they had what I didn't have. I was almost intimidated by this. And kind of let it affect my day-to-day, but for the most part, I got through it. And now that I realize it, that I was very mistaken. I had all these things when I was here. Every morning, we would get on a van, 15 kids, get driven to school. Granted, it was the most hideous van I've ever seen. This blue run-down van, probably from the 70s, and this was 12 years ago, so early 2000s. 30-year-old van, big writings at St. Basil Academy. And I'm telling you, you've never seen 15 kids run out of a van so fast to get to school. They were excited to actually get to school, and I was too. So no one would see us get out of this van. It's incredible. You know, I had 30 brothers and sisters to grow up with and play basketball, play soccer, play video games, go on hikes. Do everything that I always wanted to do with the family. And looking back, this place provided me with just that. A family, a home, and a church on my doorstep. So, where am I now and how did I get here? I graduated middle school, high school, and college, all because of the academy. None of my sisters made it past high school. And I have 3 sisters. I graduated college in 2011 with a major in economics, a minor in religion and culture from the Brew College Zicklin School of Business here in Manhattan. I now work for Citigroup, which is a top 3 bank institution in the country, top 20 in the world. And I hold a position in the most profitable, literally the most profitable group for Citigroup in their investment banking. And to all the kids here, and in no way am I bragging, I want to share with you that despite all these circumstances, you can too be successful if you work hard.
I love you, Spiro.
You know, during my high school graduation here, there was about 5 of us. 5 boys. We still hang out to this day. We're all about 25 to 27 years old. We live within 10 miles of each other. We hang out with each other on the weekends. We play on the same basketball team still. But the day of our graduation, 18-year-old boys, we think we're the toughest guys. We had a bet to see who would be the first one to cry on stage. I won. I wasn't the first. But I would like to end by just sharing with you what I took from this place and what St. Basil Academy taught me. The most important teaching is my prayer life. If you can establish your prayer life, you can conquer anything. Fear, envy, patience, love, and the general understanding that God has a plan for you. God may not tell you what that plan is face to face, though I truly believe the beauty of this is that you are faced with this challenge and you are given the ability to overcome these challenges. And to the graduates and the students, a roadblock is not a dead end. It's an opportunity to create a path. And trust me, I've created a lot of paths. If you continue to follow the light of God, you'll be rewarded in ways you never imagined. I promise you that. Thank you all for being here today, and enjoy the day, please.
Now to today's graduate. Carlos, you ready? Please welcome Carlos Perez.
All right, let me start by saying thank you, Spiros.